we're going straight to the practical session. We'll be having, I told you we had 3 bowls introduced. So the first bowl we'll be using is for the dry content. So we'll be having the first bowl here. Then don't forget, inevitably, is our sieve. We'll be using our sieve to introduce every dry content to the first bowl. It is very, very important. So the first thing we'll be introducing is what? Flour. Very important. So we'll use 2 cups of flour. 2 cups of flour. You level your flour. You don't heap it. You level it in the cup, something like this. You introduce the first one. You're supposed to sieve it first. You sieve it first. You make sure you sieve the first cup of flour inside before you introduce the next one. So once you're done sieving, you introduce the next cup of flour. And there we go. I have 2 cups of flour introduced to the first bowl. Now the essence of sieving is so if you take a close look at the sieve, you see some dirt here. You would have to sieve that out. If not, it will really affect your cake after baking. Alright, so sieving is very, very important. Alright, so the next thing we are going to introduce inside is our baking powder. I told you, for any time you use 2 cups of flour, you're supposed to use 1 level spoon of baking powder, 1 level teaspoon of baking powder. You introduce it inside. You also sieve it. Very, very important. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to introduce inside the flour now is my salt. I'm using 1/4 teaspoon of salt. 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So the salt here, no need to sieve it. It won't even pass through the sieve. So you introduce it directly inside the flour. The next thing I'm going to add is 1 teaspoon of nutmeg inside my flour. Alright? Then I told you we had 3 processes in baking. Am I correct? Now the first process is mixing. So after adding all the dry contents, I am going to use my whisk to mix everything together. You can decide to use your whisk, you can use your spatula to mix everything together. So the last ingredient I'm going to add is my dry milk. I told you for 2 cups of flour, how many cups of dry milk will we use? 1. So I'm going to introduce my dry milk inside the dry content. Still using your spatula or your whisk, you mix it properly. You mix it properly till it's well incorporated. So I'm done with the first bowl, which is for the dry content. I'm going to go straight to the next bowl. And the second bowl is like the major bowl in the mixing process. So this is our second bowl. We'll be introducing our butter and our sugar inside. I told you earlier on that when we're using 2 cups of flour, how many grams of butter will we use? 50 grams of butter. Better. So this is, for today's class, I'm using the Steamer's butter. So this is our Steamer's butter, 250 grams. In a room temperature. So I will introduce everything properly inside our bowl. Alright, so that's that for my butter. The next thing I'll be adding here is my sugar. For 250 grams of butter, how many cups of sugar will we use? Half cup. Now this is half cup of sugar inside there. I'll introduce it very well. Then I'll use, with the head of my spatula, I'll cream my butter and sugar in just one direction. Now we have 2 directions, the clockwise and the anti-clockwise direction. So I'll be using the clockwise direction for today. You're very free to use the anti-clockwise direction if you want to cream. So for me, I'll be using the clockwise. Don't forget, when creaming, you use just one direction till your butter is fluffy. The reason is so you don't have air being trapped inside your butter and sugar mixture. And the result will give you some holes in your cake. And go straight to my last bowl. And don't forget, I'm still going to remind you that for baking of a vanilla cake, you need 3 bowls for mixing, creaming, and whipping. So go straight to my last bowl. It's for my egg. eggs. So I'll be whisking the eggs. So this is the last bowl. With the head of my egg whisk here, I'll introduce my eggs inside, then whisk till it's foamy. So for 2 cups of flour, how many eggs will I be using? 6 eggs. So to help you, you get your egg. Don't introduce this egg directly. You're going to get a small bowl where you introduce inside the small bowl first before you introduce it to the main bowl, in case your egg is bad. Alright, so the first egg here is okay. So I can introduce it to the main bowl. I go straight to my next egg. It's okay. So I'm going to repeat this. I have my 6 eggs introduced to the bowl. With my egg whisk, I'll whisk it properly. I'll whisk it properly till it's foamy. Don't forget, when you start your whisking process, you're not supposed to stop. You're not supposed to stop. If not, the egg will fall back and it will be very difficult to make it rise. I want it to be very, very foamy. So I'll continue this process. So don't forget, the first bowl was for our dry contents, the second bowl was for our butter and sugar, then this is my last bowl, which I introduced my eggs. I'm whisking in the head of my egg whisk. Guys, I told you we use 3 bowls, so this is still the second bowl where we have the butter and the sugar. You cream it. For me, I use the clockwise direction. So you cream it till it's very fluffy. When it's fluffy, you realize that when you carry it up with your spatula, it will be falling down like your ice cream texture. I'll also show you the next bowl, that's the egg mixture, how it is. We mix it until it became very foamy. So here, I'm also going to add my flavor, my vanilla flavor to it. I'm going to add my vanilla flavor to the egg here. So the egg smell won't really affect the batter. We have different types of flavor, custard cloud. You can get any of them, but I'm using my vanilla custard cloud flavor to there. I will introduce 1 tablespoon inside my already foamy egg. Then I'll continue whisking for some time. Then we're now going to go into the proper mixing process. The proper mixing process, that's bringing the 3 bowls together. The proper mixing process, we are going to bring in the egg into the butter. We are going to bring in the container where we have the egg content to turn the egg inside the butter. Now we're going to turn the egg, this is our egg, inside the butter and sugar mixture. Still in that same direction, we are going to now do what we call the cut and fold method. So we are going to do the cut and fold method, something like this. Now, if you were using the liquid milk, what kind of milk did we use today? Good. If you're using the liquid milk, this is the best point to add up the liquid milk. You understand? Alright, so since we added our dry milk already, no need for liquid milk. Now, if you want to add your liquid preservative to your cake, that's the one-man squad or your squadron, you introduce it now. Alright, but for today's cake, I won't be adding the preservative because I'm eating it right after my baking. So the next thing I'm going to add is my dry content. I introduce my dry content, that's the flour and baking powder mixture, inside in bits. When you add the first bit, you mix. You continue mixing in one direction. Add the next one. Continue mixing. We've introduced the egg inside the butter, we introduced the flour, and still in that same clockwise direction, I mixed the batter properly. Now the mixture of everything is now called the batter. You're not supposed to cream this batter for a long time so your cake won't come out dense. You're not supposed to cream it for a very long time so your cake won't come out dense. You can see the motion at which I'm creaming the batter. That's a cut and fold method. Cut and fold, so it will be well incorporated. So we are going to go straight to our pan, grease our pan and introduce the batter. I hope you understood what we did here. For today's baking, I'll be using my 8 inches round pan. This is 8 inches round pan. So before that, I'll be lining my pan with my parchment paper. So if you don't have your parchment paper, you can use your butter. So I'll grease the pan with my butter. All right. So you can actually use the pack of butter you use in baking. You can use it inside. Grease it all round. You grease it all round. Once you're done greasing the pan properly with your butter, you now get a little quantity of flour. Sprinkle all around inside the pan. Sprinkle all around inside the pan. Now this is the rest of the pan. So it's set for baking. Now this is my pan. It's set for baking. Now the essence of greasing the pan is so you would have your cake come out very clean and neat. So I'm now going to introduce my batter inside the pan. Now I'm going to introduce my batter inside the pan. Using your batter inside your 8 inches round pan. So you're just going to have a circular motion so your batter can mix properly. Then you tap it on your table a little so that it will go down. You won't have some big holes under your cake. Alright? Do you understand? Yes, sir. Okay, so this is our batter, our vanilla cake batter inside our round 8 inches pan. So the next process I'm going to do now is to preheat my oven for some time, then introduce my pan inside the oven, bake the cake for at least 30 minutes, and my yummy vanilla cake is ready. Alright, so after 30 minutes of baking, our yummy vanilla cake is ready. So now I'm going to remove my cake from my pan. I'm placing it right on my cake board, then to my turntable. So this is my pan. I'm going to flip it, then remove it gently, and my cake is ready. So this is the back part of my cake. So I'm going to turn here. This is my cake. It's ready. So I have here on my turntable my vanilla cake. All right. So you can see this is my palette knife. It came out clean, so you know that my cake is it's gonna be yummy. So we'll cut it and share for everybody to test.